Thank you for attending this evening. Tonight's professional development topic will be on financial sense, increasing your awareness to finances. So, before I get into my whole spiel back here, this is more about you guys and your specific questions. I have a set game plan, but what I would really like to do is understand your questions so I know where I need to spend more time and focus our conversation today. Okay, so does anybody have any financial questions? How do I make more money? That's a hard one.
What should I be doing for retirement?
What should I be doing for retirement? Okay, we'll talk about that for sure. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, good. So the key to personal finance is really having that personal approach. Everybody in the entire planet has a different set of values, a different set of ideas. It's really important to understand what are your values around money. A lot of it comes from our family. Where did we start? What were the imprints that were imprinted on our being so that we carry it forward? The fun thing about finance is that at any day, we can choose to do something different. So just like dieting, just like getting more in shape, we have the power to make the changes at any given moment, okay? So like I said, it's really a hierarchy. It's our beliefs. It is our thoughts and our feelings towards the money. And then that turns into the consequences, the actions. What are we doing to actually see the full picture? So it's really important to understand your own personal feelings. We all have personal feelings towards risk, towards certain assets that are more attractive or less attractive. And you can't really put everybody in the same box and say, this is how I do it, and it's going to apply to everybody. It's really individualized. We all have a personal tolerance for risk. We all have a capacity to deal with that risk. And it's really about understanding your own personal aspect to that. So being young, it's tricky. We're kind of in a point of our lives where we have lots of moving pieces. The biggest one and probably the hardest to achieve is just building and maintaining adequate cash reserves. It's so easy to see money in the bank and spend it. And that's fun. But when you spend your reserves, it leaves you kind of out in the wind. Building net worth, that's done through purchasing cars or property or homes, businesses. Retirement. Will we ever live long enough to actually be retired? Or are we going to be retired as we live? Our generation has a different mindset on retirement than the one ahead of us. So it's really, what does retirement mean to you? College costs, are we paying off loans? Or do we have kids and we're trying to figure out how to save for their college education? Helping aging parents, that is a big concern. Have our parents done a good enough job so that they can take care of themselves? Getting out of debt. So that could be, again, your student loans, it can be consumer, it can be tax lines, it can also be medical debt. So it's really challenging to live in the world where we have so many kind of goals, even if we never realized that we had these goals. Especially if we never realized that we had these goals. So the key, one of the key areas that I really try to help people with and really want to understand more about is our spending. That is the first step to being a better person when it comes to finances, managing our own spending. And what I really try to stress is the idea of an allowance. That I have my bills. Those are the easiest ones, right? We know exactly how much I have to pay. The company sends me a courtesy reminder in the mail, and the money leaves, right? Then it's figuring out everything that I'm going to do in my current lifestyle. So it's the food, the fun, the recreation, it's the activities of daily living. And the key is to treat those like an allowance so that we're going to make choices. That if I don't have the money, I need to choose something different. And if I do have the money, I'm rewarded with the opportunity to be able to do those things. So it's really that first step between us and our money is treating it like an allowance. Then it truly is guilt-free. There's no regrets. So set clear expectations. Have clear guidelines. You understand what the bills are. You understand what your spending money is. Those are two different pools of money. You don't want to spend the spending money on, you don't want to spend the spending money and not have it available for the bills. It's really a kind of a first step in not getting in credit card debt is making sure that I'm not going backwards, that I'm not spending the money that I don't have. Be consistent. That's really the thing to do, is that set it and forget it type mentality, that what I want to do is be consistent with my habits so that it becomes a habit and then becomes part of who I am. Does that make sense? And you have to go back and every once in a while look at what you're spending, because you might need to adjust how you are funding. You might not be giving yourself enough allowance. You might be giving yourself too much allowance. So you really have to understand kind of the current situation. What are my ins? What are my outs? What are the things that I want to do? What are the things that I need to do? Right? There's a big difference between wants and needs, and it's really easy to spend extra money. It's really easy to go into the world and spend money. Most of us make money once or twice a month, but we actually have the opportunity to spend money 30 days every month. So it's really important that you're conscious of when you can save, because the opportunity to save is a lot smaller than the opportunity to actually spend. So trying to tie it back to your own sense and your own sense of being, let's think about before we spend the money. Is it a need or is it a want? How long do I have to work to be able to obtain this item or vacation or good? Have I done my research and found the best price? Who likes to be a value-conscious shopper here? I really like buying year-old ski equipment. It's significantly cheaper. It might not be the hip color, but man, I have nice stuff and I got it for a steal of a deal. Because I like getting good value. I am so value-driven that I like the end result of how much money did I spend, what did I get, and the last thing I want to see is it become cheaper sometime in the near future. So I'm really diligent when it's time for me to buy something. I've looked at it online for 6 or 7 months, and I know exactly how much it's fluctuated in prices. And when it gets to that low point, I pull the trigger. Can I negotiate a better deal? That's one area that often we neglect in this country. But with the internet and internet commerce, it's very easy to walk into a local store and say, look, I can get this online. It's going to ship for free, but I'd really like to support your local business. Is there somewhere in the middle that we can meet so that I can get a more fair price and make sure that I'm still supporting your business? Financial goal setting. So we have different types of goals. There's major purchases, there's special events, and there's personal growth. So it's really important to understand, why am I saving? It's income with a purpose, it's savings with a purpose. That helps us remain focused. It helps us remain kind of on task, and we know that there's ultimately a goal that I'm trying to achieve. I'm not just saving blindly and to have more money. It's really savings with a purpose. You know, the old adage, start early, save on a regular basis. Begin with the largest sum possible. That's your paycheck. Reach for the highest rate of return that's acceptable to you. That's what's comfortable to you. Some people are comfortable with risk, others are not. If you don't have your money aligned with your risk tolerance and your values, it's going to be driving you crazy. Compounding, that's having your money work for you and actually able to grow. So if you have $100,000, the next year it grows 10%, you have $110,000. If that money grows at another 10%, you've actually made $11,000 in that next year, not the $10,000. So the power of your money continuing to work for you as opposed to work against you. Because if you're in credit card debt, it does the opposite. You have a big interest payment and you're forced to pay the interest before you actually pay what you purchased. Keeping track of your goals. You really want to understand, where are you in relationship to your goal? Do you need to set aside more time? Do you need to set aside more money? Do you need to set aside the chances of earning a rate of return that's greater than maybe what you're comfortable with to get there? So it's really that what, when, how much type approach to getting to your financial goals. You really want to understand, what is the goal I'm reaching for? When can I achieve that goal? And based on that, when do I want to achieve that goal? How much do I need to save along the way to make sure that it's actually a real goal? Taking a dream and turning it into a goal is that action plan. That, what do I want? When do I want it? How much am I going to save every month to get there to make sure that it happens? Okay, no more boring stuff. So kind of when we're investing for the long term, we really want to understand that there's a risk-reward trade-off. And what I always want to encourage people to understand is that the risk is the guarantee and the returns are not. The markets go up and the markets go down. And it's really important to understand that there's no guarantee in the return. We like to think that over time it does happen, but there's no guarantee. So stocks tend to be more aggressive. Cash is more conservative. And history has shown us that same thing. Cash, we really don't earn a rate of return. Stocks, we do. But in order to get a rate of return with stocks, we have to deal with more up and down choppiness, right? And it's not actually a linear relationship, right? We often think that if I just take a little bit more aggressive stance, that I'm going to get a bigger bang for my buck. But what actually happens is this line gets less steep. So as I get more risky, my return actually is decreasing. So I get more risky, but I'm not getting the same bang for the buck as I do when I move away from cash. All right. So one of the questions was, how do I prepare for and plan for retirement? Well, for retirement savings, we actually have the ability to save tax deferred, okay? What that means is the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, has come up with a status, and that status is essentially qualifications, that this money has certain properties, and you essentially have some benefits and some restrictions, okay? Some of the benefits are that the money is tax deferred. All of the money that is in the account is able to grow without paying taxes until the money comes out. Now, a Roth IRA, the money goes in after you pay taxes and comes out tax-free, but it still has the tax-deferred growth going on inside. Your IRA, your traditional IRA, your 401k, your 403bs, 457 plans, it's pre-tax money. So you actually save the money today in taxes, you put it in an account, it grows for 30 years, and then when the money comes out, that's when you're going to pay taxes. For us young people, it's a great thing, but it's also has lots of mystery. Does anybody know what the tax rate will be when we're 65 years old? 80%. Yeah, exactly. And if the tax rate moves up to 80%, what rate of return do I have to achieve on my money to make that actually a good deal? Pretty high. So for us young people, a nice source of tax-deferred savings is a Roth IRA. This is money that we pay the taxes today, so we have to bite the bullet a little bit, pay the taxes today, and then we have the ability to have that money grow inside of an account where the returns can be compounded. I don't have to pay any taxes, and when the money comes out, it's going to come to me tax-free. And the power is this, that if I save $100 a month for 20 years at an 8% rate of return, here's the difference between it sitting in kind of our checking and savings or a brokerage account or in a tax-deferred account. So this is how you get more bang for your buck. Do you guys know the different places that you can save your money? Mattress is a good one. That's kind of over here in this bucket. How about another place that you can save your money? Well, yes. How about like an instrument? Like I've already given you a couple, traditional IRA, Roth IRA. Those are the answers. Okay, so the IRS, they really only give us 3 buckets to put our money. Okay, that's it. Now inside of these buckets are different investments. Okay? So our checking account, our savings account, real estate. We can own a brokerage account. A brokerage account is similar to a savings account, but I can purchase stocks or bonds or mutual funds in it. So a little bit higher rates of return potential. Inside a brokerage account, your cash is called a money market. Okay? This is after-tax money, meaning I get my paycheck, I bring it home, and now I have to pick where I put my money. That's it, really. Okay? Inside of a brokerage account, I can own stocks, bonds, mutual funds, so I have some choices, but from a holding point, this is really it. I have another after-tax bucket, Roth IRA, and one pre-tax. So pre-tax buckets are great because that is actually an area that I can save money on taxes today. The IRS really doesn't give us that many opportunities to save money today. This is an incredible bucket because not only am I saving money on taxes, but I'm actually saving money myself. Double win. An IRA is called an individual retirement account. When you have a 401k at work, or a 457, or a 403b, those are your retirement-sponsored plans. And if you leave that employer and transfer it to an individual account, that's how you get an IRA. You can also open up an IRA at a brokerage firm or a bank.
What about life insurance?
Good one, good one. So there's some life insurance that has a cash value component. And wouldn't you know it, if the life insurance companies got in bed with the IRS and they said, hey, if we can have a life insurance policy that's not a term, that's going to last until the end of somebody's life, then that will be less stress on Social Security, old age, and survivors. So what you should do is incentivize those people to contribute to a life insurance policy so that we can take some stress off the Social Security fund. And the Congress said, perfect. And I'm sure some people were, palms were greased. So cash value life insurance has a component where the money goes in after tax and comes out tax-free. Okay? Now, Roth IRAs, your real cost is maybe doing business with a brokerage firm, buying or selling something. That's kind of your cost, and maybe an ongoing management fee inside of a mutual fund. Cash value life insurance, you're buying life insurance every year. And what happens is every year you have a price on that life insurance. The benefit of cash value life insurance is some of the money is yours, and some of the money is the insurance company money that's kind of at risk, okay? So what happens is, over time, we end up taking more of the responsibility back from the insurance company. So as the bucket gets filled, it's filled more with our money than the insurance company's money, okay? And that only makes sense because as I get older, that cost of insurance is increasing, and at some point it would become unaffordable, right? So it really means that I have to have a lot of my own money in here so that that policy can kind of continue to be a life insurance policy and my money still exists. Because if I don't fund it enough, I'm still going to have a very high cost of insurance, and as I grow up, that cost of insurance is going to actually go up as well. There's also in here is municipal debt. So you can buy federal, local, state government debt, and that has some tax-free properties. Pre-tax. So let's go back here a little bit. We understand there's some catches to cash value life insurance. Municipal bonds, those are only going to kind of appreciate at the rate of the bond. They're not going to really give you a return on your money, much as just a yield on that money. You get some return for lending it. Roth IRAs, though, because it's made for retirement, actually has a 5-year rule, which is kind of interesting. You can put $1 in there, let it sit there for 5 years, and you get the qualification. So it's not the last dollar that's entered, it's the first dollar that's entered. 59 and a half. So I actually have to reach the age of 59 and a half before I can touch that money. That's a little scary to me because I don't know if I'm going to make it. But it is really good because what I do know is that because the money is going to come to me tax-free, that'll be better than anything, right? So the struggle is, will I make it? And that's real. And the benefit is, it's tax-free money. Okay?
If you don't make it, though, does your family get it?
Yeah. No, your family gets it. Absolutely. Pre-tax, same thing. Qualifications, 59 and a half. This one also has a unique 70 and a half rule called required minimum distributions. Essentially what happened is you put the money away pre-tax before paying the IRS, and they said, you know what, I've waited long enough. And when you reach 70 and a half, they say you have to begin taking a certain percentage. And that percentage actually increases every year because your life expectancy is decreasing. This money, because it went in pre-tax, is 100% taxable. Okay, and it's 100% taxable as ordinary income taxes. How many people know the different ways we can be taxed by the government? There's really two. There's capital gains taxes and there's ordinary income taxes. Two separate tax bracket charts. Gotta love it. 100% taxable. And that goes back to what I said before is, what if tax rates are astronomical when we get to retirement? What rate of return do I have to achieve? I know this one. I know how much I'm saving today. I don't know that one. So for older people, this is great. We're closer, there's a little bit more certainty. For us young people, what I really like to do with this bucket personally is I get to April 15th, I'm filling out my taxes on TurboTax, and I start to play with the numbers. And it says, did you make an IRA contribution? I said, I don't know, maybe. And I start plugging and chugging. And I will spend an hour or two, and I'll look at a bunch of different numbers. And I'll do the analysis and say, if I save $1,000, I get $300 extra back. Or if I save $400, I get an extra $50 back. So I like to use this bucket to fix my taxes more than to be proactive throughout the year. This bucket is a great bucket if you've been hit by the Obamacare penalty. So I don't know if any of you have gone through this, but when you sign up for the Affordable Care Act, you have to give them an estimate of how much income you will be receiving throughout the year. What happens if you make too much? Well, they give you premium credits ahead of time. And you fill out your taxes, you are healthy, and all of a sudden you owe money for your health care that you didn't use. So what I like to do is go, that's not a very good strategy. Let's figure if we have the opportunity to save in our 401k or an IRA and reduce my taxable income to the point where I don't actually owe any money for the Affordable Care Act. So I like to use this bucket as a fixing my tax scenario more than a proactive planning scenario moving forward. I value the Roth tremendously more because it really is going to be tax-free money down the road until they change the program, right? At some point, our generation might get close to retirement. Everybody will have their money in Roth IRAs, and they will say, that was a good idea then, and it's not a good idea now. So either that has gone away, or they will change the tax code. Who knows? The idea is that if I have some tax-free money and some that's 100% taxable, I'm starting to get some choices and some flexibility from my taxes. The important thing to understand, though, is these are really long-term buckets, right? Purchasing a car, going on vacation, buying a home, sending a kid to college. Can't be fixed with those two buckets, right? So that brings us back to this first bucket over here, the after-tax bucket. Okay? So I don't get tax-deferred growth. I don't get that benefit. Up here in a Roth, the money grows tax-deferred. Over here, the money grows tax-deferred. All of the money stays in the account until the end. No tax-deferred growth. No 59.5 requirements. But the money is liquid. What's the problem with liquid money?
Doesn't make any interest.
No, it could be invested in stocks or bonds or something.
Taxable.
It's taxable, yeah, so I'm going to give up a little bit.
Too easy to spend it.
Too easy to spend it. Right. It requires an extra layer of discipline. We have to self-discipline. Up here, there's penalties and restriction. Over here, there's penalties and restriction. We're told right off the bat, if you take the money out, you will pay a 10% penalty, and you'll still be responsible for the taxes. We don't have that restriction over here. The restriction is ourself. So it's very difficult to build this because, first of all, it's not for retirement. So I have to have a goal or something specific that I'm trying to achieve so that I have the motivation to stick to it. It's liquid, so something better can come up. You can go to Greece or Croatia or buy a sailboat. Takes some discipline. This money, when it comes due, you pay capital gains taxes. Okay? And capital gains taxes are also confusing. If you are in the 25% or above for your marginal income tax rate. So the money that we earn, if we make too much and we're in that 25% tax bracket or above, we're going to pay a 15% capital gains tax. If I'm below it, it's 0. So we hear about the CEOs taking $1 of salary. Okay? There's no real income tax liability on that. And they really get their money by selling shares and paying capital gains tax. But because their ordinary income is low, they get tax-free money. So Warren Buffett pays a lower overall income tax than his secretary, strictly by the structure of how they have their money coming to them. And lots of CEOs on Wall Street pay themselves $1 in salary and take the rest of the money in the form of stock so that they can have this tax advantage. So capital gains tax, if I save 100 and it grows to 1,000, I'm only going to be paying taxes on the $900 of growth. My initial $100, I'm not responsible for paying taxes. But if I earn any interest, if I earn any dividends, and when I go to sell it, I'm going to pay taxes. So it's tough because I paid taxes to get the money. I'm going to pay taxes all along the way. And when it's time to sell it, I still get to pay taxes. So for long-term money, this is the impact. Yes, it's not going to grow as fast, but I have the opportunity to do more things. I can buy the home. I can go on vacation. I can buy the new car. Send the kid to college. I can't do that in a tax-deferred account, okay? Questions? Is this helpful? Anybody ever seen this? Some of it.
Talk about, like, because you can take your money out of IRAs and Roth IRAs with 401s before you're 59 and a half.
Yeah, and it's more for like, first-time home purchase. You can use some of the portion for college education. There's a limit. You can only take $10,000 out a year. $10,000 is not going to buy a down payment on a home. It's not going to buy a car. Maybe you can buy half of a car. So it's really about having that discipline to say, this money is truly long-term money. I don't want to touch it because what I give up from touching it is the power of tax-deferred growth. It's much more responsible and prudent to build this bucket. And the downside is it's liquid. It takes an incredible amount of discipline to stick to it and make sure that you don't touch it for things that come up. That doesn't happen, right? So this is the power of compounding. So if I have 20 years, an 8% rate of return, if I save $100 monthly, $500 monthly, or $1,000 monthly, you can see I have put $24,000 in, but my account's grown to $59,000. 500, but it's I put 120,000 in, and it's grown to 296. 240 has grown to 592. This is the power of letting your money work for you. It takes time. But even a little bit of money set aside for a long period of time adds up to a lot. This is a big one. Why take the risk, right? The risk is the guarantee, the returns are not. So a big portion of your money should be really focused on kind of preservation cash reserve. Because what this shows us is that a 1-year holding period, a 10-year holding period, and a 15-year holding period for stocks, okay? If I have a short-term goal, only 74% of the time has the stock market given me a positive rate of return. So if I'm trying to be ultra aggressive for something that's in the short term, I might not have the money. Can I afford that risk? Where when I start to add time to my side, we feel pretty comfortable knowing that that money is going to grow. How much is it going to grow? I don't know. Should it grow? Absolutely. This is an interesting one. So this looks at the stock market from 1980 until 2015. And what we can see here is lots of years of positive returns and a couple of years of negative returns. And can you guys read these numbers here in these bubbles? In these bubbles is the maximum amount that the market was down in any given year. Okay? So look, we have a couple of years of positive returns. Market was down 11% at one point. Market was down 19% at one point. Market was down 12% at one point. Okay? That's why you need to have a robust cash reserve, because you need to be able to stick it out to be able to see those results. If an emergency happens, if something comes up, you are forced into dealing with that situation. Inevitably, the market will be down. You will sell. You will fix your problem. Maybe you will have lost some money in the process, only to watch the market go up to higher highs and be what? SOL, fear of missing out, not motivated to do it again, burned out, right? So cash reserves are a huge part of our young person's life, because we need to be able to have the reserves to let our long-term savings really work for us. We don't want to be a forced seller because something comes up. Things always come up. For us young people, we are faced with kind of the world of the new retirement. We don't work 30 years at one company that gives us a pension and sends us off to pasture. We actually have the opportunity to outlive our assets, and that's scary. Social Security, uncertain to the future. Social Security will tell you that they are going to run out of money sometime between 2033 and 2038, and it will need a reduction just to be able to kind of move forward. Inflation. Inflation is eroding our purchasing power every day. So we don't want to let our money sit idle in cash, because what ends up happening is I lose very safely over time to inflation. So peace of mind of knowing that money's there. The downfall is that money's not going to be worth what it is in the future. Now, if you think about the next 1 to 3 years, if that's a real goal, it doesn't hurt to have it sitting in cash. You're not going to lose enough to inflation to make you upset. 4 to 7 years, that's where you're trying to keep pace with inflation. You're not really looking at getting 10 or 12 or 20% rates of return. What you really want is that 2, 3, 4, 5% rate of return, so that money has the same purchasing power in 6 or 7 years. And then longer term money, 7, 8, 9, 10, 30 years down the road, that's where you can afford to be more aggressive. You have time on your side. You have the ability to ride out the ups and downs. Elder care costs. That's pretty scary. Right now, if you needed long-term care assistance, it would start about $3,000 a month just to go into assisted living. And if you need full-blown care, it can be as high as $6,500 a month. Protecting your loved ones. That's a really big financial goal. So life insurance, that's making sure that the liabilities are taken care of, that the goals can still be taken care of. A valid will. So that's understanding who gets what when something happens. And do you need an estate plan? So some good reasons why you would need an estate plan is children, assets like a home or business, if you have a large inheritance or a windfall. Maybe you just are charitable minded and you want to give the money to a charity. That would be a good reason to have an estate plan. Or preserving the money for future generations. As we get older, we'll have children and grandchildren. So the real estate planning essentials is a will. I need to create a will. Anybody else in here need to create a will? It happens. Insurance policies. It drives me crazy. I pull into my parking lot every day and go, I look at the estate planning attorney across the parking lot's office. And insurance policies, that's protecting our loved one. And trust if we have more sophisticated type of planning. Credit. I don't like it. I'd rather be the bank than owe the bank. I like to live in the world of choices and flexibility as opposed to obligations. And that's what the difference is, that if I save for a goal, I have the choice to save, I have the choice to do it. If I go out and splurge on a credit card, I'm living in the world of an obligation, that I don't have the choice anymore to save. I am forced to pay. I like to live in the world of choices rather than obligations. One key is paying our balance every month. And if I maintain a balance or have a balance, we really want to keep it to that 10% limit. Do you guys understand how credit is earned or how credit is scored? One of the major factors in your credit, besides do I pay on time, is how much credit am I allowed and what percentage of that am I using? If I'm using a greater percentage of it, I'm actually pushing my credit score down. So you want to maintain a low balance if you're carrying a balance, not to mention the fact of the opportunity cost of if I have a couple grand on a credit card and I owe a 20% interest rate, I would much rather have the $200 or $400 a year to spend on something rather than something I didn't get. And the saying is true, don't charge anything on a credit card you don't already have in the bank. I think that these keys to building a strong financial future actually do ring true to everybody. It's because they're general and they're not sophisticated. Adequate cash reserves. Who wants to do a better job of rebuilding and building a cash reserve? Maintain a healthy cash flow and balancing our wants and our needs. Stay on track for retirement and long-term goals. Understand long-term tax planning strategies. This is the biggest thing for us young people. Don't want to pile all my money into these long-term assets and have a short-term need and destroy years of work because something happened in the short term. It takes us a long time to save $10,000. We can go crash our cars tomorrow or today, and that will cost us over $10,000. So we really want to be plowing ahead for the future, but we don't want to neglect today. Plan your financial goals, the what, the when, the how long. Assess your insurance. It's the life insurance, the disability insurance, as we grow older, long-term care insurance. The scary thing about long-term care insurance is one of the groups that needs it more than almost old people are young males. Does anybody have any idea why that is?
Veterans?
Risk takers. You go ride your motorcycle, you ride it too fast, you crash into a dune buggy, you hit a tree, mentally incapacitated, suddenly you can't take care of yourself. But we're still young, and there's a tremendous burden that gets put on society because of that. A valid will, your estate planning needs, and working with a financial professional. Okay, which would you rather have? A check for $1 million or a penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days? Why? You've heard this before. That's right. So there's our $1 million, and there's our penny. This is what happens at the end of the 30th day. We have more than $5 million. Exponential growth. So that is my presentation.